Hello, this is Abhijit Chavan. Welcome to the Legal Aid website's Projects Showcase. This is organized by the Legal Aid Drupal Users Group, part of a TIG grant, and thanks to LSC for sponsoring this webinar. So I welcome you to this webinar. We'll get started in just a couple of minutes here. We have, I'll share the agenda with you. So we have Jack Haycock from Pine Tree Legal is going to talk about rapid response case studies. Uh, Following him will be Gwen Daniels from Illinois Legal Aid Online, and she's going to talk about third-party integrations with Drupal. And then I will present on updates on the DLaw platform project and updates on our upcoming hackathon, which is going to be held in January at the LSC ITC conference. And then we'll have a discussion. If you have questions about the panel for the panelists today, or any other questions, it's an open-ended discussion at the end. We should have about 15 minutes for that. So that's our agenda for this webinar. I'd like to make one quick announcement, is that we would, the slides from this presentation will be available online at our website, drupal.openadvocate.org. It also has all our past webinar presentations, meetups, slides and notes are available online. So if you want to go check out our previous um, webinars, all presented by members of our community, that's at drupal.openadvocate.org. Also at this website are reports on our past hackathons. You may know that we have been holding hackathons, an annual hackathon at the LSC conference, and we'll have another one in January 2019, and also earlier this year in May, we had our first virtual hackathon, which was, we had participants from all over the country. And so all those projects of past hackathons are also online. The link from this website and at legalaidhackathon.org. So you can go and look at all the projects and get some ideas for the next hackathon. So I'll be talking a little bit about it at the end again. So that's all this information is at drupal.openadvocate.org. All right, with that, I think we have attendees in. So let's get started with our first presenter, Jack Haycock. Jack?
Hi, everyone. My name is Jack Haycock, and I am the client-focused technology innovator at Pine Tree Legal Assistance here in Bangor, Maine. So today, I really want to talk about two extreme cases where being able to put together a screening tool was really important, either to dispel some misinformation that was going around or to get the word out about a pretty significant change in regulations that would affect our clients. So, Main Care Section 17, last year there were some big regulation changes in 2016 actually. So Main Care Section 17 provides in-home care and support services for people with certain mental health diagnoses. But in the spring of 2016, there were significant changes to program eligibility. And with those changes came a lot of mass panic, especially from the agencies that were providing those services under Section 17. Many agencies preemptively withdrew from providing these services, and in some extreme cases, they closed before the regulations even went into effect. So the message that went through the media around these changes was basically that if you don't have a diagnosis of schizophrenia, you will not be able to get Section 17 services. That was not true. The changes were a lot more nuanced than that, but that initial reporting really stuck, and it continues to be a problem for us and our clients. So after these changes came out, it didn't take long for our staff to put together a paper checklist style screener for care providers to use and for our clients to use in trying to navigate these new eligibility requirements. But we could only really get that screener to providers or clients that we were already directly working with. So that was a pretty limited section of the community. So in addition to posting that paper screener for use on our website, I translated it into an interactive Guide Clearly screener. So using Guide Clearly, I was able to break down this really complex and confusing set of eligibility criteria into a step-by-step Q&A session for the user. So they only have to answer one question at a time, and the kind of behind the scenes complex if-then logic is hidden, and what is presented to the user is this really slick, almost text message-like interface. The paper form was really built for attorneys and care providers, but the screener that I was able to build with Guide Clearly was meant for everyone. So there's really, even though what the user sees is this really nice one question at a time interface, the branching logic behind the scenes is really complex and lengthy. This particular screener has 124 questions, 124 possible questions, I'll say, which make up 216 unique paths through the screener. But the maximum number of questions that a user would ever have to answer in a given path is 19. But the majority of people will have to answer far fewer questions than that. I was able to build this in about a week, and it was my first project using Guide Clearly, so that's at least a little bit of an indication on the learning curve for this. It didn't take me too long to pick it up and really put it to use. So this is a stark contrast with some changes that recently happened with TANF eligibility in Maine. So previously, in order to get TANF benefits, a child had to be deprived of the care and support of one parent, but now that restriction has been removed, which means that many more two-parent families may be eligible for TANF benefits. This change wasn't really publicized, didn't get any of the media coverage that Section 17 did. And so generally, other than in some particular communities, not a lot of people know that those regulations even changed. So in talking with other legal aid providers and advocates in the state and comparing notes, we've noticed that there wasn't the uptick in TANF participation that you might expect when a kind of restrictive regulation like that is lifted. Part of the problem is that nobody knows about the changes, and that includes many caseworkers. And there was really no quick, easy way to tell if you might be eligible under the new guidelines. The TANF application itself, and there is an eligibility screener from the state, but it's pretty long and detailed. It's the kind of thing that you would need to gather a lot of documents for and really take the time to sit down and figure it out. But we wanted to raise awareness about these changes in eligibility and also make it easy for people to figure out if they should apply or even take a look at that other kind of more intensive state screener. So working from DHHS's eligibility criteria and some educational materials that were in development, we built a very simple TANF pre-screener that would pass people along to the full TANF application if initial signs pointed to them being eligible. So unlike the monster of a Section 17 screener that we built, this one only has 27 questions total, 37 unique paths, and the maximum number of questions a user would have to answer is 5. So with this simple screener and some coordinated social media sharing, we were able to get this information in front of many more people, including key partner advocacy organizations in the state. So I've been talking about building these things in Guide Clearly. So these issues were really different, but in both cases, we wanted to be able to move quickly. We wanted to be able to share this information with other advocacy organizations in the state. And Guide Clearly makes that really easy. Other organizations who want to host one of these screeners just need to sign up for an account for free. And then you can embed the screener basically in an iframe right on your website. And actually, one of the organizations that we worked on the TANF eligibility screener with has also just started using Guide Clearly because of the screener that we built together. So Guide Clearly is, it's free to use thanks to Abhijit at Open Advocate, up to a certain number of, I believe it's views per month, but it's something, I think it's something like 10,000. Abhijit can correct me on this. I believe it's about 10,000 views per month. And it's just a very easy way to create a rapid response screener when you need one, without having to kind of build out a triage module on your website, or without basically having to learn any coding. This is a coding-free back end. So that flexibility and the ability to replicate and share these screeners, I think makes it one of the kind of niftiest free to use tools that's available in the legal aid tech community. And it certainly worked out well for us. So I will leave it to Abhijit to clarify any of the things that I may have just mischaracterized Guide Clearly as, but otherwise I will pass it on to Gwen.
I'll just add while we switch over to Gwen, I'll just add that it's Guide Clearly is free for up to 10,000 sessions. It's not views, it's sessions. So that means people have to start interacting with it. So that's a pretty high number for most websites. Thank you, Jack. And now we'll switch over to Gwen Daniels from Illinois Legal Aid Online. Gwen?
Hi, so I'm Gwen Daniels. I'm here in Chicago at Illinois Legal Aid Online. I am the software product director for the organization, which basically means that I manage the design and development of IllinoisLegalAid.org. And I'm going to talk a little bit about some of the Drupal third-party integration projects that we have been working on over the last couple of years. And I'm going to start with our Twilio project. This was funded under an LSC Technology Initiative grant that was awarded to LAF, and they contracted with us to do a piece of the project with the website. And what we did was we enabled, Twilio is a SMS and voice platform with a very robust set of APIs that allow Drupal to interact with it. So somebody sends a text message, Twilio receives it and passes it over to Drupal. There is a Drupal module for Twilio. So Drupal can look at that and say, okay, this is a Twilio message. Let's look into our custom code and figure out how to reply to it. It sends a message back to Twilio, and Twilio sends it back to the user's handset. And we had several different use cases for our Twilio integration. One was to allow people to share content from the website. Another was to subscribe to content updates. That way, if somebody changes a piece of content on our website, the user gets notified. We also integrated it with our online triage and intake system, Otis, to allow us to do confirmations and reminders. And we also created a set of SMS-based surveys. Before I show specific pieces of our functionality, for anyone who is interested in working with Twilio, they have a nonprofit Kickstarter bundle, which is basically a $500 credit. Text messages are 0.0075 cents per message. So that's works out. I think they say it's about 80,000 SMS messages are covered with credit. Some really important things to keep in mind is to think about how you're going to capture information and do any reporting. Twilio has a bunch of log files, but if you want anything deeper than that, you're going to have to build it yourself. Users have to opt in to receive SMS messages, and you have to be willing to respect their opt-ins and opt-outs. There are different legal rules around SMS messages that don't apply to things like email spam, but SMS spam is a different issue. One of the things that we ran into, particularly with our content sharing, is that not all carriers support concatenated SMS. If you remember, SMS was created initially to support things that are 160 characters. Most carriers, not Sprint, have enabled something called concatenated SMS, where if you send a much longer text message, it puts it all together, and for the most part, the user sees a single message instead of 20 messages. We ran into some issues, particularly with Sprint using long codes, which are standard SMS, the standard SMS telephone number, that those were getting broken up, and we had some where the users will get 30 text messages on Sprint and one message on everybody else. The only real way around that is to look at short codes, which are those nice little 5- and 6-digit text messaging numbers. Even with nonprofit pricing, it's still about $12,000 to $15,000 per year, depending on how much of a vanity number, whether you want a vanity number or not. So one of the first things we did was to actually integrate it with legal content. We already had a share bar that allowed people to share their content, our content on Twitter and Facebook, email and print. And so we just added another little image for SMS. The user can click on that, enter their mobile phone number, determine whether they want the information delivered as a text or a link, and it will send it out. For some types of content like video or automated documents, we don't give them the option to have the text sent. They can only send a link to themselves. And our second use case is with our online intake application. Through IllinoisLegalAid.org, several organizations across Illinois use that platform to do online triage and intake. When a user completes their online application, they have the option to opt in to receive an SMS message or to sign up to get text messages related to their application. If they do, they immediately get an email, a text confirmation. On the screen, you can see here's someone who's applied through Prairie State. You finished step 1. You need to call them at this number between 9 and 12 Monday through Thursday and tell them that you applied online. For some users, they have the ability to schedule an appointment callback through our system, and so their text message will look a little bit different. It'll tell them you must speak with staff at Prairie State Legal Services. They will call you between, say, 9 and 10 a.m. on Friday or 10 to 11 on Monday. And then the system is set up so that it will actually send reminders to the user 24 hours before their first callback slot option, and 1 hour before. People remember that they need to answer their phones. Contact rates, particularly for when programs call the users, have always been a problem, but we have seen some pretty significant improvement as a result of the text message reminder system. And finally, we created surveys that can go out over text messages. It's really easy to get people to, a message pops up, text one or two, and we can get faster feedback with an SMS survey than we would over an email or hoping that they click it while they're visiting on our website. But we wanted to do this in a way that didn't require me to build out an entire platform. And so we started with Drupal's web form module and just created a simple web form that can actually be accessed through the website. And this is our feedback survey one. It goes out to users 30 days after their last visit. And it says, would you recommend this to a friend? Text one or text one for yes, text two for no. And then the next question they get when they reply that is, okay, rate the legal information that you got, and then an option to explain their rating. We have another survey, and it's like I said, it's just a simple web form. And then I can look at the reporting. We have another survey that goes out for people who have completed online intake that follows up to try to find out what happened to them. And this one, we went a lot further in terms of doing some custom work to pull the web form results into the Drupal views module, but also integrate it with our online triage database tables so that we can actually see what program they applied to, whether they were please call us or the program calls you or you call the program, what zip code they were in, what type of legal issue they had, while still being able to use a generic survey. And we've gotten, I just updated our report to LSE. We get about a 20% reply rate on the online intake survey of people who have opted into SMS and completed online intake. And it allows us to see and identify and troubleshoot problems in the overall online intake process. There is a link also in the PowerPoint, in the Google Slides, to the GitHub repository where all of our code for this project exists. It's free to anyone. It's not behind a password. It's a public repository, so anybody can use it and modify it. But as Abhijit mentioned, there's going to be another hackathon in January, and so it's never too early to start thinking about are there other use cases that we might want to create integrations for to integrate Twilio with Drupal. Is there any interest, for example, in integrating some of their voice services or other SMS-based use cases? Another integration that we did is with Google Optimize, and we didn't so much integrate it as used it, and I'll get to the integration piece at the end. But what Google Optimize is it's a part of the Google Analytics suite. I'm going to hide this and go back to a browser. Google Optimize allows us to do very easy A/B testing on our web pages. Mostly very easy. All I have to do is create an experiment. So I'm going to create a new one as soon as I find one. Okay. Create an experiment. Homepage 2. And I'm just going to do a simple A/B test. Use Aleo's homepage. I'm going to make sure I'm not logged in. Well, we'll create a variant. And then I'm going to edit it. If you're using Chrome, there is a plugin for Google Optimize, and it will prompt you to install it. it allows you to edit your page without doing any coding. So let's say I want to see if changing the title, edit the text, to this block actually improves anything, use of the website. So I'm just going to reach quickly and rename it. I can do entire things. I can also say, I want to test if the site works better without this element. I can right click on the element, remove it, and now it's gone. So if I save it, I now have essentially a new homepage, and I've done nothing in terms of code. I've done nothing with Drupal. And now what I can do is go back in and add an objective. And I can do custom objectives, or I can choose from a list. And Aleo's got a whole bunch of things because we have a bunch of custom events set up in Google Analytics. But I just want to see if it increases the number of page views. And then I can save it. And you'll see it's telling me that there's an error. Well, that's because I haven't actually installed the code. If I started the experiment, right now it's set up. You can see 50% of the users would see the original homepage and 50% would see my adjusted homepage. I can change that. I can add targeting. If I want this to add a condition that says, I only want the test to execute on people who in Illinois, because it doesn't matter so much to me what users outside of Illinois see. But basically, I've just built an A/B test, and I have not yet touched anything on the website. And this is free, by the way. Up to 3 experiments at any one time. Google Optimize is free. But now let's pretend that I've actually ran a test, and I did one. We did actually several earlier this year to test a machine learning based recommended for you block in place of our taxonomy driven related block. And we ran a test on our crime victims, a piece of our crime victims content, and it comes back at the end and says, we found a clear leader. Now, we had several other tests that said there is no clear leader, but we could see some improvement in some ways for the different variants, and helped us move forward. But what it tells me is that the recommended with a related label saw anywhere between a 44 and 205% increase in page views, anywhere from a slight decrease in session duration to a almost 1,000% increase, and didn't really have much of an effect overall on our bounce rate. And again, at this point, even with this, I still hadn't done very much work. So let me go back. I keep hitting the wrong button. The share button instead of the percent button. All right. The only thing that you have to do on the Drupal side is to drop in a little bit of JavaScript into your node template file. That means you have to go into the code and update. There's no way currently to do this through the user interface. And I need to clean this slide up before we go live because I left Aleo's Google Tag Manager ID in there. But this is the snippet that you drop into your node.tpl.php file that is in your themes directory. Replace where it says create the user the UAID and and if you use Google Tag Manager, the Google Tag Manager ID. Just drop those in and it'll start running. What you want to you only want to run the script on the node pages that you're actually running a Google Optimize experiment on, because otherwise it will be really slow on all the other pages. And I say that the one piece of this is that you have to edit your template files. And back to the thinking about the hackathon, I'm curious if anyone would be interested in working on a module that would allow us to drop that snippet into the node template files via the UI, or adding conditions so that it only appears, say, when a user is logged in, or when a user has a specific role, or when a user has done X, Y, or Z. How am I doing with that? And our other integration has been with Google Analytics data. There is a Google Analytics reporting module, and I think if you're on DLA, you already have that installed. And it's really nice. It lets you have embedded Google Analytics graphs in your statewide website. But what it also does is it exposes basically the Google API. It makes it available for you to do other things with. And so we use this to pull in page views from the last 2 days and the last 60 days and store it in fields attached to each of our pieces of legal content. And that allows us to do things like populate a popular today block, or order the pages on our family and safety page or divorce page list of contents by popularity, by using Google data. And the last integration I'm going to talk to is just a very simple one that we've done. Our content manager wanted to be able to, our content director wanted to be able to automate publishing of legal content on Facebook and Twitter and over MailChimp. And so we created just an RSS feed using views. That's something that doesn't require any coding at all. I don't even think it requires any contributed modules beyond the views module itself, which most everybody has. I created the RSS feed, gave her the link, she put it in Zapier, and Zapier handled, Zapier is a service that allows you to connect different services together. So she gave Zapier the RSS URL, and it spits out, it then posts RSS items as they come in to the organization's Facebook account, our Twitter account. And we have one RSS feed that is set up for our blog posts that is a single RSS feed item. It then sends out our new blog post email automatically. And now I'm going to turn it back over to Abhijit.
Thank you, Gwen. Let me share my screen here.
Gwen, would you be able to answer the question about Google Optimize? And you may see that in your questions panel.
Yes. Yeah.
Thank you.
Gwen, you want to answer that now?
Do I want to what?
You want to answer the question now?
Sure. So the question is, I assume Google Optimize isn't editing your underlying page. It's just Google supplying a different cache page to the viewer. Yes, that's exactly it. There is another option on Google Optimize to do two separate pages, in which case you'd have to create that second page. But what I showed and what we've done has been Google gives them a different version. And the other question is, does Twilio's nonprofit apply to government? I don't think so. I think you have to be a 501c3 to get that. But all the information on that platform is on twilio.org, which is their nonprofit landing page.
Thanks, Gwen. We had another presenter today who was scheduled, Brian Dyer Stewart, but he had a family emergency and therefore was not able to present today. So I'll continue with my presentation. So I wanted to give a quick update on the DLaw project that we've been working on this year. So most of you probably know DLaw is Drupal for legal aid websites. It's a Drupal-based open source platform for building public information websites. It was funded by LSC starting 10 years ago to build a template for statewide legal aid websites. So we have been in constant development since then. Over the years, we've moved from Drupal 6 to 7 and new architecture, new design. And every DLaw version was funded by LSC. And we've brought new features and innovations to the platform. So this year, we have been working on DLaw 7, and this is funded by 3 separate LSC grants, feeding to the development of new features and refinements in this version. So we have had a very busy last 6 months, releasing multiple versions of DLaw starting in March with DLaw 7.0, and just on September 5th, we had DLaw 7.8. So we've been very busy releasing refinements. So I just wanted to give a quick summary of what some of the major new features in DLaw. So what we have added is searchable events. This came as a request from some of our users who host a lot of events and would like to find events on the website. So this is a new searchable interface for the events that allows you to search for events by topic or region, and has a new layout and several accessibility improvements. All these were suggested by users and were folded into the platform. Another feature we've added was topic icons. This was, again, a often requested feature, and it was also a recommendation from LSC for usability. So now we have the ability to assign icons from a popular icon library, and this list is crowdsourced. So if people select an icon and add it to their DLaw site, it becomes available as an option for all the other users. So you know what your peers are using in terms of icons, and you can reuse them. As a community, I think that would also lend itself to you creating using icons that are similar from site to site, so would be more familiar. So that is the idea behind the topic icons design. You can go and pick an icon from what's available, what's already listed, or pick another icon if you need one, and then that gets assigned to the topics listing. So that's the topic icons feature, new in DLaw 7. We have several accessibility improvements throughout the platform, and we have 12 different design themes. So you can choose any one of these themes, and they are all switchable, so you can switch at any point. So each of these themes are designed with typographic principles in mind, and accessibility and readability and legibility in mind. So we've upgraded all of this under the hood for better accessibility throughout all these 12 themes. We've also added a new feature for SEO. So there's SEO improvements across the board. recent sites that have moved to DLAW from another platform have seen a 13-point increase in their SEO scores as calculated by WooRank. So same content, moved it to DLAW, their WooRank SEO score went up by 13% or 14%. So that's those improvements are across the board for all sites at the platform level. And we've also integrated Yoast, which is another SEO analysis tool. It's a real-time SEO analysis tool. So this requires some working, so it's by request. But if you would like to use this, then we can enable that for you, and you can then work on the SEO of individual pages by typing in a focus keyword and then following the recommendations that Yoast provides. So that's also part of DLAW 7, new in DLAW 7, thanks to an LSC grant to work on this. We have updated the management interface, so it's cleaner and more readable, and we've fixed some bugs and made some refinements throughout the management side of the platform. The summary, website summary is updated to include all the new features. And there are several other features throughout this DLAW 7 release. These are requested by our users. So those who've been using it says it would be cool if we could make a copy of a page, so we can jumpstart the next version of it or something. So there's a clone type feature available, ability to unpublish a page at a future date. It's like a job announcement, or you can unpublish it if you like. A way to categorize your content by geography. So it's a geography categorization system that you define. So it could be counties or states or whatever you like it to be. And you can use that to categorize your content. We have more. We added new options to read clearly, which are now available inside of DLAW, so you can easily use all the options of read clearly through DLAW. We can now add descriptions to your topics, and you can export the site search data, export site comments. There's an annual summary statement that you can just copy and paste if you need to report it to LSC, or for your annual report, you can just copy the statement out. It's in plain English. There are also charts on that and data on that report page that you can copy. So there are several features built throughout, and then of course the core platform with Google Analytics API update, Drupal core and contributed modules and security updates. As we constantly do, whenever they come around, we put them on the platform right away. So all that's part of DLAW 7. The latest version is DLAW 7.8, and you can download it from GitHub, github.com/openadvocate. You can just go there and download it. If you are a developer or like to run your own site, if you want to run your site on DLAW and you don't have technical capacity or don't want to deal with it, you can sign up for a hosted version of DLAW on openadvocate.org, and you can run your website there and not have to worry about installing it or maintaining it. Everyone running on OpenAdvocate on DLAW gets all the updates that we do. So if you're on OpenAdvocate, you always get all the updates. So that's DLAW 7 update. I want to announce that we have a hackathon coming up on January 8th, 2019 in New Orleans. It's the LSC annual conference hackathon. This will be the third hackathon at the annual conference. We will put more information out at drupal.openadvocate.org. So if you'd like to participate in this, let us know, and we'll have a registration link coming up soon. But leading up to the hackathon we'll have a couple of meetups planned, one in November and one in December. And what we typically do at these meetups is it'll be a web conference just like this, and you can participate and you can ask questions about how the hackathon runs if you're new to participating in a hackathon. We also discuss ideas of projects to do and sometimes form teams. So by the time we get to the hackathon in January, we have topics decided, we have teams formed, and some teams even get to start working on collecting resources and setting up development environments and so on, so that the day-long hackathon at the conference is extremely productive. So it's a day-long hackathon. So if you're interested in the hackathon, I would encourage you to join the upcoming meetups. We don't have registration links up yet, but we will as we get closer to those dates. But you can mark those dates down, November 15th and December 6th, and those will lead up to the hackathon in January 8th. The hackathon is not just for developers, it's for everyone. If you have ideas, but you need to have some developers build it for you, you can participate in the hackathon. If you are an expert on the subject matter, on specific areas of law, or experience in the field, that's very valuable too. So you don't have to be a coder, you don't have to be a programmer to participate in the hackathon. So I encourage all of you to learn more about it in the coming months and participate. And if you're going to be at LSC, then to come a day earlier and participate in the hackathon. If you are not coming for the conference, you could still participate remotely. We had that a couple of projects over the last 2 hackathons. We had teams that work remotely too. So there might be that opportunity too. So the next thing for you to do is mark those dates, November 15th, December 6th, January 8th, and come in for those meetups, and we can plan the next hackathon. It can be what you want it to be. So that's it, and let's go to questions now. We see we have some questions. Can I use Google Optimize with DLA? We haven't, so the question is, can I use Google Optimize with DLA? So we haven't explored that yet, but it's with the pioneering work that Gwen has done, we'll probably be talking about it and seeing how we can fold that into the platform in a sustainable way for us. So it's a great tool, and I love what Gwen has done with it. So we'll definitely be looking at it as a possible future integration. And yes, it would be something that would, one of the challenges for implementing new features in DLaw for us is that we have many sites hosted on it, and our commitment is that any new feature we add is available to everyone. So this makes it more difficult to build into the platform, so it takes a little bit of time. But yes, whatever new features we build will be available on the hosted DLaw version on Open Advocate. Okay, any other questions about DLaw or the hackathon or any of our earlier panelists? Please feel free to type them in, and I can read them out as they come in. Meanwhile, I'll see if Jack, would you be able to do a quick demo of what you presented at the beginning of the session of this webinar on your Guide Clearly guides?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, well, I'll turn the screen over to you, and you can give a quick demo of that while we wait for questions to come in.
All right, perfect.
Okay, so Jack, you are the presenter now.
All right, great. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
All right, perfect. So this is the Section 17 guide that I mentioned in my presentation, and here it is live in the wild on our website. So I just want to take you through just a typical user experience of this. So it's embedded in an iframe on the website, and like I said, it presents a really pretty familiar text message style presentation for the user. So all that you ever have to do is answer one question at a time. and that will get someone to an endpoint. But if you make a mistake, it's also easy to go back and retrace your steps. If you need to start again, there's that. So that's the front end of it. So that is what the users on the site would see. But behind the scenes, it gets to be a pretty complex set of questions. So this is the editor on Guide Clearly, and you can get here just at guideclearly.com. And so this is the actual interface that I used for building this tool. So adding in questions is pretty simple. You can add in
Jack,
questions.
this is Joseph.
Options. Oh, go ahead.
Good question for you. Are you able to link to a different web page from the end point of the Guide Clearly? And I'm talking about
Yes,
on the
you are.
what the user sees side.
Yes, absolutely. So if I don't think we did it in this one, but let me just check. You can definitely do that, and it provides a nice little outward bound link indicator.
Thank you.
So just like this, and that then can take you to this form to take to your provider. So you can absolutely do that.
Excellent.
And that's as easy in the editor as just adding in the link into the edited text box. So this is, like I said, pretty easy to edit. You can preview it right on the site. You can also see an overview outline version of the screener, which if we collapse all, this might take a second here. Which is pretty handy when you get into the more complicated branching logic like we did on this one. But it's pretty much to build just a drag and drop and enter text. You can just add options, questions, and go down through the various trees. And then adding it to your site is very easy. You can just pick up the iframe and you can embed it just like you would a YouTube video. So overall, it's just a really powerful, but a really simple to use and simple to learn tool.
I'd like to add another point there, Jack. If you go back to your website page where it's embedded, that I button there allows you to make a copy of Jack's guide there. You can copy this guide directly. So any guide you create is shareable with the community. So if you click on this I and then hit copy this guide, it takes you to Open Advocate. You need to sign in, or if you don't have an account, you can create an account. But if you're already signed in, you can just hit continue and makes a clone of Jack's guide, and so you have that, and then you can modify it for your needs. So if you have something that's a little bit different in your state, but you can use the basic model that Jack has and go in and edit it to create your own version, customize your own version.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's actually what the organization that we worked on the TANF screener with has done. Now that they've got their own account up and running.
We have another 6 minutes in this session. Does anyone have any questions about Guide Clearly, DLaw, Google Optimize, for Gwen, the SMS, and other projects that she presented? Anyone have any questions?
We don't have any more, Abhijit.
Okay. Well, I guess if there are no further questions, we can end 5 minutes early. I'd like to thank you all for attending this webinar. This presentation is already, the slide deck is already online at drupal.openadvocate.org on the same page where you registered. So you can go and review the slides there, and watch the website for upcoming webinars, the meetups that we'll have for planning the hackathon, and I hope you can make it for the hackathon. Thank you, and have a great day.